So as you know, if you have any questions, you're welcome to pose your question. It's a beautiful spring day. Very lush and green. You know, some of you are in California, it's different out there. Just about 20 minutes ago, there was a sudden darkening of the bright sky and torrential rain for a few minutes. Tara went out just before the rain and she was just enjoying this sudden dramatic change in the skies and the wind. Hello, Ananda. You're right, we've had late rains. Oh, yes. And the reservoirs are full. That's nice. It's good for California. Yes, wonderful. Everything is green in Northern California. Nice. I recall not too long ago, it was all this drought. It's nice to see the reservoirs to be full. It's nice.
It was questionable whether whether California would be habitable.
Oh,
It was so serious. It was so serious.
wow. Yes.
So it's amazing how it can change.
Yeah, you know, they say water is life, or I think I heard it somewhere, yes. Absolutely. And yet it's amazing. There are people who live in very arid climates, and this is life generations after generations.
Yes. Yeah, with 7 inches of rainfall yearly, something like that. It is amazing.
Yeah. Somehow they find the roots and that contain moisture and nutrition and live off that somehow.
Of course, those are traditional or more primitive populations where there's not too many people.
Right.
Well, all is well here in Northern California. Nice to see you.
Wonderful. Lovely to see you, Ananda.
Thanks.
Magdi?
Hello, Zoe.
Hi. So, I don't know if you can make a question out of this, but what's been happening more is just this sensation of waking up from a nightmare, you know, like this nightmare of the waking dream. And there was something when Holly asked you in last satsang, I couldn't clearly hear her question, but it was something, I guess, about spiritual teachers, why there seem to be more male teachers and female teachers. And you said, so you think I'm a man? That really burst the bubble. And it was such a beautiful pointing that, you know, this is such a dream. And it's just all these concepts that divide it into male, female, and it's like, oh my goodness. So yeah, I just wanted to share that, and if you can say anything about that. Thank you.
Yes. No, love and beauty are genderless. What's a color? What's the shape of love? You could say it has no color and no shape, and you could also say all colors and all shapes, all forms, and yet no form. The experience of love, is being that which is formless, and it is as well all forms. And the teacher is really the teaching. It is formless and it is all forms. We perceive with various filters, and the best perception is filterless, without any filter. Then you are perceiving. Being, you are being perceiving. And being perceiving is shapeless, formless, light of being. What I truly am, what I am, formless presence. There is a perception of that which is being that. So it's being perceiving, being that perception, being that it is an objectless perception. So it's a recognition of oneself as the other, as everything. Of course, there is a form, but you're perceiving the heart that is beyond the form, or through the form, or throughout the form. And what touches your heart is not an object, it's not something. It is the inner vibration of your true nature that is recognized within yourself. At the mind level, we are perceiving via various models, via various paradigms, various structures. And so we perceive up and down, right and left, male and female. And that has its place within the limited realm of the mind. Not to be confused with the reality of consciousness, with the reality of the peace and the light of being. Which is what I am, what we are, what the I, universal self, is. So we perceive a form and we attribute a self to that form, but this attribution of a self to a specific form is erroneous, or maybe just convenient, but it does not truly represent the self, because the self is not represented by any specific representation. It is represented as everything and as nothing. So in attributing a self to a specific body-mind, we are dissecting ourself into this and that. We're identifying with whatever body-mind qualities we have formulated and in fact, there is no male or female outside of the mind. It is a mind interpretation. That does not speak truth. It only speaks a certain representation. which is convenient to a certain extent. But in order to investigate the truth, you have to investigate the changeless, that which is not subject to conditions. That which you cannot identify with, but that you recognize yourself to be beyond identification. So the true teacher is yourself. And your love for truth is your guidance, your inner radar. And it has little to do with the body-mind situations, which are designed specifically to edge you, to awaken from your your limited identification. Any identification is connected to sensations and feelings. And is only for your amusement, but not for your awakening. So your true teacher is truth itself. And you recognize it as this sweet love within yourself, sweet loving recognition within yourself that grows and flourishes within. Any questions?
Magdi?
Yes.
So I'm wondering if you could talk about, as it's like as the borders become less defined, like something you said before about imagine yourself behind yourself, something like that. I can't remember the exact words, but that seems to be, happening more. I mean, could you talk about what does the true body of the self, is it just, do you feel everything? I don't even know if that question applies, but
So the true body is nobody. One could say it's a self-contemplative body. It's more of an absence or a transparency. It's non-local. So it appears in the same space where everything appears. But it's not separate from any appearance. So you could say that it's a cosmic body, a universal body, where you are nowhere and you are everywhere. And you are nothing and you are everything. You cannot comprehend it because via the mind you can only form images and some mental projections. You can only be it upon the ending of being somebody specific, nobody specific. So you are nobody, and you are the ocean, the wind, the bird, the sky, the breath. But it's not an experience that can be described. It can only be alluded to by the terms like causeless peace, or effortless transparency, a borderless presence. So you are like a mirror that has no objective, no material quality. That reflects everything without any subject and object, without anything being external to it. And it's experience of causeless peace. And the freedom and the joy of being. There is a recognition that it is cosmic and that there is nothing personal. So there is no separate subject. The subject is universal subject. And the location, you are no longer located in time or space. These impressions no longer rule you or apply to you. So the exercise of perceiving from a focal point that is behind your head, rather than being as most of us operate via the default mode of perceiving via a focal point that is at the eyes or the face. To invite you to delocalize a little bit, to sort of lift the anchor, shift it. So you're experiencing from virtual space that is slightly behind what you experience as your face, what you imagine to be your face. It's a broader, less formal tendency to personalize your experience. Which is an add-on that limits, binds your experience, keeps it stuck in the narrow perspective. So the yogas are to invite you to experience your body beyond your habitual location, your habitual contracted way. So you invite yourself to experience the flow, the vastness, the openness, the borderlessness of the body in the various yogas. Not to form a new model, but to disentangle yourself from the default model of feeling and sensing yourself as a body, which is a conglomeration of contractions and points of view. And at some point, everything becomes your yoga. As the sense of auto-location fades. Ananda, you write, when the Sangha ripens fully, there is no more room for shifts to occur. Then we are all shiftless, characterized by laziness, indolence, and the lack of ambition. a shiftless lot of good for nothings.
I hope that would make you smile, but that's how it seems to me.
What is that?
It makes me think of the Zen, some of the Zen teachers of the old Chan masters. We're just a bunch of good for nothings, you know, sitting around together with no ambition. Because the only real ambition is to realize self-nature, would you say?
Yeah, but you don't know how life is unfolding for you. It could be characterized by laziness, indolence, a lack of ambition, a lot of good for nothings. Or it could be one doesn't know, being involved in I don't know, it could be part of a musical orchestra, busy traveling and performing. It could be a bus driver. We don't know, but
it could look very busy. It could look very busy.
But innerly, yes, there's no ambition or you know, doing the effort to get somewhere, to attain something. Yes, that is, yes.
So if you read, you know, Rumi, some particularly beautiful thing or something that's touches you, I'm just guessing that you don't particularly feel it's giving you something new. In other words, is there anything new under the sun? Or is it just a beautiful, like the beauty of art, you know, art is different.
Right. Like you could be watching a beautiful sunset, or not a few hours ago, less than an hour ago, the wind and the storm, and how it's not that it gives you anything, because it isn't a separate perceiver of that. It's happening intimately. So yes, you do experience the beauty, the awe, the majesty, the wonder, the power of nature, or the beauty of Rumi's poem, his wording, the cadence of his words, the images that he uses, the love that he expresses in his poetry about for truth and the celebration of. Yes, of course, you do experience that. In a way, you are Rumi at that moment. You know, you're taken. You're absorbed by that expression, and in a way, you disappear. You're no longer apart. You're no longer standing apart. You're taken by the beauty of it, and the what it's pointing to, what it's expressing. So yes, we love that. We love to read, or to be in presence of living expression of truth, because at that moment we recognize ourselves. It's not a mental recognition, it's a being recognition of the love, of the beauty, of the freedom, the joy.
So when you see something else like, say, a mother and child altercation in the grocery store, she's just fed up. Shut up and sit in the, shut up and keep quiet. I have to get this shopping done. We see something that's very different from a beautiful expression by Rumi, say. Then is that a more advanced place to recognize the one and only divine, in action, in expression, or what would you say about it?
Every one of us at every moment is given the conditions, the situation that is appropriate for us.
Mm.
We live it, and in living it, there is a resonance. There is the unspoken voice of God within what we are living.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we see it or we understand it. At some point we do. At some point we recognize that it is all the divine will, the divine order, the cosmic order that is unfolding the way it is unfolding, and it's up to us to recognize that to which this expression refers.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it refers to my personal self, and then of course there is the struggle and the turmoil and the why is this happening to me?
Mm.
Or is it possible to recognize that to which whatever is unfolding truly refers?
Mm-hmm.
And sooner or later we come to recognize that whatever is unfolding,
Mm-hmm.
which seems to be constantly shifting and changing,
Mm-hmm.
refers to that which I am, which is not shifting and changing.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a journey of sort of working with it or being worked by it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That at some point more and more light starts to come into our life via both our surrender and our understanding via our contemplation of
Mm-hmm.
what is it that is truly going on.
Mm-hmm.
So and then there is a sense of compassion and empathy and a recognition that we're all sort of this one ocean, so many waves, so many aspects, so many representations, so many turns of the road.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one journey. It's a journey. It's not a solo journey. In a way it is, in another way it's not, because we're never truly alone.
Mm-hmm.
In many ways we're never truly alone, both in the dream realm and in truth. We are all one. And so the hardships of life and the challenges that appear to us in life, that we used to experience them as tremendous personal angst and personal hardships and difficulties. At some point, we realize that there is more to it than just God punishing me, to put it in this religious way. There is more to it than that, that there is actually some light within that which is appearing difficult and challenging to us, or to our friends, or to our neighbors. But that obviously the recognition isn't, you cannot do the recognition for somebody else, but in a way you're not separate. So your inner contemplation in ways that go beyond the limitations of the mind, our contemplation affects everybody in one way or the other, as consciousness is borderless and seamless.
So you could be free from victim, a person could be free from victim idea, virtually completely free from the victim mindset, but still see others with a victim or distressed in certain ways, and not be truly not be dualistic and see them as other, but at the same time not be caught in that mode.
Yes, when cannot be free and unfree, either if you're unfree. When you're not free, you're identified and you're feeling that there is something wrong. And another moment you're experiencing whatever you're experiencing it from a place that's embracing it all, where there isn't a personal aspect to your experience. So when there is a sense of victimhood arising in your life, at that moment, you have, in some way, you have personalized the experience. So whether the victim is you or somebody else, there has been a personalizing of the experience. And so at that moment, then usually the mind gets engaged in perceiving a situation that needs to be fixed. And, the emotions get engaged. There is also the possibility of experiencing whatever is unfolding it's dispassionate, but it's not detached.
That's beautiful.
And it is available whichever way is possible, because you may be available but like the sun is available, is shining, but as long as the cloud cover has not yet become diffuse, then the sunlight will not shine on the surface of the lake.
Mm-hmm.
So there is an availability, and it's not a personal intention. It is just the shining, the love, the shining light of being, which is the love that we are. And it takes the course that it takes.
Mm-hmm.
There is really nothing at stake.
Mm-hmm. So this says this where you said leads to something I've been pondering lately is, does Ananda, as in Sat-Chit-Ananda, just shine through everything? I've thought of it as shining through whatever's going on, so that whatever's going on is not the primary or problematic. It shines through. But then the next, it seems like then the really non-duality is that Ananda is the stuff, the crying child or whatever. I don't know if that's getting too poetic to be meaningful or.
So yes, Sat-Chit-Ananda is absolute shining light of truth, is isness. It's absolute. Simultaneously, some may be experiencing great angst because of the political situation. It's moving, it's becoming really crazy, and oh my God, what's going to happen to me? So there may be that experience, and it is similar to the sun shining onto the forest, Ananda. And in the forest, a fox is eating a mouse.
Yes. Good example.
There are two levels in a way that we are talking about. One is the dream level, and one is the absolute level, which is Ananda. So in the dream level, the peace and the happiness and the well-being becomes more and more available in the dream realm as you are contemplating Ananda. So when both the mouse and the fox start to contemplate Ananda, they will sit together and they will eat some radishes or whatever.
Yeah, the lamb and the lion will lie down together, as the Bible says.
Yes, right. I think some scriptures, they do speak of that. Maybe in the Christian scriptures, they do speak of that. But the main thing I wanted to mention is that there are different realms. There is the dream realm. And what matters is how is it appearing to you. So if in your dream realm, this is where you need to look at, and so that the question becomes less of an academic question, but more of to your experience. It speaks to your experience. What was the other part of your question? There was another part of your question.
Oh, just was it Ananda shining through, or is everything actually the Ananda itself in expression?
You could say that everything is expression of Ananda. You could say that. But what matters, I think there was a question last satsang about that. What matters is the peace and the bliss. What is your experience? Say? Because we may accept the premise that everything is Ananda and be unhappy. So this teaching, this sharing is about happiness. It is not so much about understanding that everything is Ananda. That's okay to understand that. But that understanding, it has to deliver the fruit. And the fruit of this understanding is happiness, causeless happiness, to be established as the peace of being. Like this recognition is not like an accomplishment. It is a sort of, it's like you know the parable of the son of the king that was out of the castle and forgot that he's the son of the king, and eventually he remembered and he came back to the castle and he was recognized as the son of the king. Even when he was recognized as the son of the king and recognized himself, he came back to the castle because he spent so many years up thinking he's a pauper. Even when he was recognized and he recognized himself as the son of the king and the king recognized him as his son, even then it took him a while to really lie in his bed and feel completely that
he was probably hoarding scraps of food from the table.
Right. So
for a week or whatever.
As a parable, so yes, everything is Ananda, but how helpful is that to you in your life? That's what really matters. How transformative is it for you in your life? And is that your full living experience?
Good questions.
Yes, thank you. Yes. Okay. Again, it's not connected. Emmanuel. Yes, okay. Thank you. Hola, Emmanuel. Yes, I just saw your question. You say, hola. Is there any real relation between awakening to truth and esoteric stuff such as chakras, aura, kundalini, celestial beings that protect the planet and that kind of funny things? Does this really have to do with spirituality and self-knowledge, or is it just part of the dream? We really don't know, Emmanuel. I really don't know. But I would say the following. To be in this material, worldly, human, whatever way you want to call it, in this dream, be experiencing this experience right now is quite magical, and it's a huge thing. Because it points directly to the reality of consciousness, and it is a tremendous opportunity for us to contemplate truth, to experience the wonder, the amazing creative power of consciousness, and to recognize ourselves as what we truly are. So, how can I say that there aren't celestial powers and celestial beings and the guardian angels? I hope that they are all benevolent and helping us to come to the peace, to come to the recognition of what we are, and to be that fully, truly, really, wholly, completely. Now, what I would like to add is we have to be watchful not to get that these chakras and kundalinis and all this esoteric stuff that you speak about, that it does not reinforce in you the personal self. Now, be watchful of that. In what I share, I don't speak of any of these things. I just speak to the reality that perceives right now. That in this very moment, when you contemplate the reality of your experience, you will find the reality of awareness. And you will find that I am that I is awareness. And that is not a body-mind. It's not something that you have to feed. It's not something that you have to give it money. It's not something that you have to be concerned about its retirement. It's not something that you have to worry about its relationships. That which you truly are, that which truly perceives right now, is 24/7 available to you as your very self. And that this contemplation requires no kundalini, nothing esoteric, no CDs. It requires nothing outside of your interest and your love and your passion for truth. And you being open to this direct contemplation. So this is the direct path of sharing and pointing directly from truth to truth. Truth pointing directly to itself, from itself, as itself, inviting itself to recognize itself as I, universal self, I, presence, I, reality, not I, Emmanuel, not I, great chakra, at the fourth chakra or the fifth chakra or anything like that. So in a way you could say that this direct pointing cuts through all the chakras. It goes from the, let's say, the lower chakra to the light of being directly. You don't need to play pinball. Pinball? Is that the pinball? I think it's called pinball. You don't need to play pinball in the direct path. You don't need to travel when you want to go from New York to California. You don't need to travel to Canada and then go down to Paris and then back to Thailand and then back to Mississippi. Or you go straight. There is Highway 70 or Highway 80, and you go straight from New York to California. So I don't know much about these things, and I may be the wrong person to ask these questions if you're interested in them. Okay. You know, I share sometimes that years ago when I was doing the Zen training, the retreats, the sessions, they call them in Japanese. They're intense 7, 8, 10 days retreats, silent retreats. The Japanese have this term makio. Makio are certain experiences that you have during your meditation, during your retreats. That I remember being told that makios may occur, and they did. And not to give them much attention, but to remain with whatever your practice is. There are various practices in the Zen tradition. So I never touched the makios. Ananda, you're right. From here and now, I suppose the whole Zen tradition is makyo.
I thought that might ring a ring.
It served its purpose.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful, of course.
That's the nice attitude. That's how I feel about Vedanta, basically. Vedanta point out so much, and
yes,
and eventually, who needs temples and neti even? Who needs anything of that?
Yeah, every one of us, we are very blessed in our journey. There's always something that comes to guide us, to help us.
Beautiful.
The tradition, friends, teachers, who sometimes even the family,
Right. Yeah, if your mother's perfect, the perfect mother, you might not.
Or the opposite, it could be sweet, or it could be also tough.
That's what I meant. If it's a little tough, it could make you inquire.
Yeah. In my youth, there were a lot of challenges in my upbringing that I'm sure that they had their, at the time it felt like desperation, say despair. But when you are cooking a meal, you have to put it on the fire. I mean,
yeah, mention
and raw food.
My mother had three boys. I have two brothers.
Oh, okay.
And I always thought that was what a big job that was to raise. What do you have? 7, I think.
With six, 5.
I mean, that's a major job.
The Middle Eastern women, I think they're God blessed them with some magical skills in the kitchen and in rearing children. I don't know how they always happy doing it somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, they're the great yogis.
They get together too. I recall when I was a young boy that there would be a lot of women in the house and in the kitchen, and
Yeah,
they would help with each other and talk.
yeah,
They'd be cooking together. I don't know. I always found it fascinating.
yeah. That's probably what allowed it to work. the
Yeah,
teamwork.
yes, and they had a lot of stories and
Oh, beautiful.
any questions. Okay, well, very lovely to be with you, Esther, Emmanuel, Holly, and Gabi, Rashmi. Hola, Rashmi. Hello, Rashmi. Ananda, Richard, and Zoe. Lovely.